Hello and welcome to the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. This is a special report on Connecticut's cannabis lotteries. My name is Adam Wood, and I'm the president and founder of the Chamber, along with my colleagues Deborah Kapanis of Bridgeport and Dan Glissman of Hartford. Today, we're checking in with Deputy Commissioner Andrea Comer of Connecticut's Department of Consumer Protection. Commissioner, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. There were over 15,000 lottery applications, over half of which were social equity applicants. This blew most people's expectations and set some records. Were you surprised by the level of participation?
To see so many social equity applications was encouraging in one case, but then as we looked at what happened as a result of Section 40 of the bill, which allows for people to submit as many applications as they want, then it was more of a tempered or a measured enthusiasm. That said, I am hopeful that we will still be able to get a diverse pool of applicants, particularly for the social equity licenses. And then I'm also encouraged by the fact that we've had a significant number of applications for the Cultivator license, which is not part of the lottery. So those will be reviewed, and hopefully we will have a robust pipeline of growers in the state that represent social equity.
So in general, what has been the quality of the applications so far? Has it been generally fairly high quality applicants, or?
So I am delighted to say that I have nothing to do with those applications. We have a third-party accounting firm, Cohn Resnick, that is reviewing those, and they will provide their recommendations based on the criteria that we have laid out. I will say, though, that on the front end, in order to submit your application, there is a significant amount of documentation that you have to upload. It is your, proof of your residency, proof of your income, proof of the ownership and control that meets the requisite percentage to demonstrate social equity. So I'm hopeful that that information that was all uploaded will mean that applicants have all their T's crossed and their I's dotted. But then again, we'll have to see, because there is, the ownership and control can be a tricky thing. You can have on paper 65% that you own this business. But if your board structure is set up so that you don't have that 65% voting, then you don't have 65% control. And there is a concern that there may be those kind of catches that impede what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and this was just to sort of take a step back. So this was particularly the provision in the law that was to allow for, I think it was Section 149, that allows for a social equity applicant to put in an application outside of the lottery.
Yes.
And pay a fee of $3 million to go into a social equity fund.
Yes.
So there's a number that's been put out there that there were 40 some odd of those applications, 40 plus potentially of those types of applications, which if they were all awarded would be like $120 million going into that fund, which is pretty incredible. Any plans in terms of what you would do, how you would use those funds, whether it's 120 million or something lesser or greater than that, depending on how many applicants get approved or licensed. Any plans for what those funds will be used for? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I won't be going to Disney World, that's for sure. I will say that yes, we've gotten a significant number of applications for the Cultivator license, and it is a $3 million fee that has to be paid if they're approved, right? So if everyone is approved and we get this huge amount, a good chunk of that is going to go into the Social Equity and Innovation Fund, which is then reinvested in the communities that have been most harmed by the war on drugs. So what I'm hoping is that communities will start thinking now about what they want that reinvestment to look like. Is it a workforce development program? Is it a startup funds to help entrepreneurs who want to do something other than cannabis? Is it some sort of youth program to steer them away from illicit drugs? But we really do want to have the community's input on what that reinvestment looks like, because every community is not a monolith. So we're hoping that they will be thinking about that and really giving some strong thought to what that reinvestment looks like.
That's great. And these are communities like Bridgeport, Connecticut, Hartford, New Haven, largely urban communities that were most impacted in a negative way by the war on drugs. So I think that's so important and such a worthy cause. So, so good luck to you and your agency in that mission. I know you have a lot of work and a lot of hurdles in front of that. So the big question, one of the big questions on everyone's mind is, so when are you gonna issue, reward my lottery application? There's obviously lots of competition with 15,000 applications in. Can you tell me that you're gonna be done in 30 days and everyone's gonna have their winning lottery ticket or losing lottery ticket in their hands? Or is there any sense, I know there's outside firms involved doing the auditing, as you mentioned earlier. What are you thinking? How's the process going? And is there any time frame that you can share with us?
Sure. So we have a draft timeline. As I mentioned before, CohnReznick is doing their initial review of the applications, and we have it structured so that the cultivator licenses will be reviewed first. We're thinking about supply chain and what needs to happen. So obviously, because of the grow time and the process time for cannabis, we wanted the cultivators to be reviewed first, because they're going to need about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months in order to get their product ready, right? So it didn't make any sense for us to review the retailer applications and send those licenses out, and then they have no one to buy product from. So we anticipate that the review of the cultivator licenses will happen by the end of June, in which case those recommendations will come to the full council for a vote at the July meeting. So I would say that by early July, at the very least, the cultivators who have been selected will know that they are good to go.
And probably a few months after that, you'd be getting to making decisions on, how many lottery awardees and all of that.
Yeah, so the number of licenses awarded through the lottery were outlined previously, right? So we know there'll be 6 and 6 for retailers. I think one of the promising things is that for each non-social equity license, there has to be a social equity license. So I'm hopeful that will, saying hope a lot, but aspirationally, there will be real equity in the market.
Well, this is great news. I know you're very busy and your agency is doing a lot of work with this many applications, and really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. I'll just close with, is there anything else you would like to share with folks, whether they're new entrants, businesses who put in an application to the lottery, or just the general public here in Connecticut that you might want to share with us?
I think what I want most to share is that I understand that the legislation was not perfect. And I understand that what people want from this legislation is a level playing field. We are doing our very best to ensure equity. It's not always going to look clean, and it'll look messy at times as we sift through. But I also encourage folks, if you look at the legislation and you know that there are provisions in the legislation that have not been helpful, or in your view, negatively impact our efforts towards equity, please reach out to your legislator and let them know how the bill could be changed. Not everything will make it to the final vote, but let your legislator hear from you around what those challenges are and how you think they can be improved. Because at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same reason, and that is to create this level playing field and have an industry that serves those who, in part, who were most impacted.
Great. Commissioner, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks again.